Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Gender Decoded. I'm really glad you're here with me today. Whether you're listening on your commute, during a walk, or just taking a break, thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, and today we're going to explore one of the most uncomfortable but fascinating realities of modern romance: how race and gender still shape who we swipe right on and who we ignore. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered if online dating is truly as open-minded as it seems? We often talk about compatibility, shared interests, or good vibes, but when millions of people go online looking for love, is it really about personality, or is something else happening under the surface?
Welcome to Gender Decoded, when numbers align, seeing the stories that data defines, breaking the barriers, truth untold, insights in gender, the data falls.
Today's episode dives deep into this question using actual data, not opinions, not theories, real data, from one of the biggest dating platforms in the US. What we're going to talk about comes from a massive data set released by OkCupid back in 2009. They published this through their Oak Trends blog, analyzing messaging patterns
It was a
and
great
user
day.
preferences
Yes,
from
it
over
was. It
1
really
million
was.
heterosexual interactions. And what they found is wild. It's illuminating, uncomfortable, and necessary to talk about. We're going to unpack everything: who's considered attractive, who gets the most replies, and how all of this breaks down by race and gender. You might think dating is personal, but when the numbers are this consistent across millions of people, it becomes sociological. Let's start with a bit of background. Around 2009, OkCupid's team released a series of blog posts under the name Oak Trends, which explored dating behaviors using anonymized user data. One blog post in particular, titled "How Your Race Affects the Messages You Get," took a hard look at how racial and gender dynamics play out in the world of online dating. Now, this wasn't based on surveys or user opinions. This was hard behavioral data, actual messaging patterns: who wrote to whom, who replied, and who ignored. Alongside that, they also looked at answers to one very controversial prompt: not to be racist, but which ethnicity do you find most attractive? It's a direct question that forces people to choose, and the answers were then aggregated across different racial and gender identities. Those responses are what shaped the horizontal bar chart we're going to unpack today. Let's talk about methodology for a second. The data included millions of first messages exchanged between men and women on OkCupid. They looked at both directions: who initiated and who replied. Then, they combined that with how users self-identified by race and gender, and what race they said they were most attracted to. The patterns were consistent enough to eliminate randomness. These weren't flukes. These were biases scaled across hundreds of thousands of people. Now let's break down that chart. Picture a list of racial and gender identities: white males, white females, Pacific Islander males and females, Native American, Middle Eastern, Indian, Hispanic, Black, and Asian, both male and female across the board. Each bar is color-coded and shows what percentage of that group picked white, Black, Latino, or Asian Indian as the most attractive group. Here's the jaw-dropper. Every single group, except possibly Asian females by a very slim margin, ranked white as the most attractive race. White males chose white women. White females chose white men, no surprise there. But it goes deeper. Pacific Islander men mostly chose white. Native American women, white. Indian men, white. Black women, still white. The pattern repeats over and over. In some cases, like with Hispanic or Native American respondents, their own group barely gets half the votes that white gets. What does that tell us? That we're not just picking partners based on personality or connection. There is a strong racial preference, often internalized, that elevates whiteness as the standard of beauty. And when that preference is so dominant, it means other groups are automatically pushed down the ladder, regardless of who they are. Now, let's mix in the reply data, because this is where it really gets interesting. Among men, white guys receive the most responses to their messages 29% of the time. But get this, they were also the least likely to reply, only answering 40% of the messages they received. They sit at the top of the food chain and act like it. Indian men, on the other hand, had the worst luck. They only got replies 20% of the time. That's a brutal drop. Black men weren't far behind. Now, among women, the most likely group to respond to messages? Black women, 34%. That's incredible generosity in the face of rejection, because they were also the least likely to receive replies when they initiated. So, they give the most and get the least. Middle Eastern women got responses nearly half the time, more than any other female group. And interestingly, the group most likely to respond to them? White men, even though white men were the pickiest. Overall, they responded to Middle Eastern women 47% of the time. So yes, there's a bit of exoticism happening there, some kind of stereotypical attraction that overrides their usual pickiness. And just to reiterate the most mind-blowing facts, white men get the most replies, but reply the least. Black women are the most generous in replying, but get the coldest responses when they initiate. Indian men are at the bottom of both sending and receiving success. Middle Eastern women are the most replied to group, which says a lot about how racial stereotypes play out in desire. And finally, across every group, whiteness is seen as the default attractive race. That's not in group bias, that's cultural programming. Now you might be wondering, is this just one platform, one moment in time? Yes and no. Yes, this was 2009 and OkCupid. But no, the same patterns show up again and again in Tinder swipes, in dating app experiments, even in speed dating studies where personality is removed from the equation. Physical attractiveness rules the first impression. And physical attractiveness, in our society, is still very much defined by race. Media plays a huge role here. From Hollywood to fashion to beauty marketing, the image of the ideal partner is overwhelmingly white. That image shapes how we see others, and even how we see ourselves. So where does this leave us? Let's recap what we've talked about. We looked at how race and gender intersect in online dating using real-world data from OkCupid's 2009 dataset. We saw that across nearly every demographic, people rated white partners as the most attractive. We saw that men and women behave differently. Men's preferences are more spread out, but still biased, while women are far more selective and consistently favor white men. We saw how black women and Indian men are statistically the most disadvantaged, and how Middle Eastern women experience a strange kind of fetishization that boosts their reply rates. And we ended by acknowledging that these aren't just personal preferences, they're social patterns, shaped by centuries of cultural conditioning. The data is clear. We are not dating in a vacuum. Our biases, both conscious and unconscious, follow us online. But being aware of them is the first step. If you've ever felt rejected in the dating world and wondered why it might not be you, it might be the system we're all part of. That's all for today's episode of Gender Decoded. If this made you think, or maybe squirm a little, that's the point. We'll be back next time to tackle another tough question about gender, behavior, and the forces that shape us. Until then, stay curious, stay critical, and keep decoding the world around you. Take care.